Так, ну, дамы и господа, будем начинать.
Well, we will start on time, ladies and gentlemen. It is 10:30 sharp, and a very good morning to you. Happy to see you all of, how many, 37? 42 of you. Fantastic, 42 is a great number. This, of course, is an early Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the crunch, on the edge of St. Petersburg. Here we are, quite far away, quite early, on a day off. Still, I believe those of you who came here will be able to learn something about working with social media, and I hope I will not disappoint you, and I hope that you will not waste your 30 minutes of time. Once again, good morning. I'm Alexander Bogomolskiy. I work with World of Warships, and I do operational things. What are they? Mainly working with income, working with the audience, all sorts of things. Daniela yesterday compared World of Warships compared it to creating, a double-decker navy vessel, but I don't think we are actually, a navy ship. We are more like a fishing ship because we're constructing, right? We're peaceful folks. We are people who design, we're people who create all sorts of operational tools and instrumentation to make sure our vessel is moving towards where we have to get. Some people are actually casting the net, and that's what we do. My team and myself, and we will be discussing these very net today, or rather the social networks, social media. And I hope to be able to convince you today that these kind of operations will have direct, immediate results onto the business side of your project. There's a huge audience to be found there that can be attracted towards the brand, and that can be teased in different ways, and I will have a few examples. In my presentation, I will be looking back at our experience with working with an alpha and beta modes, and then we will be discussing what kind of results we have managed to achieve. I'm one of those boring people, I'm not, engage in anything else other than trying to make business on social media, such as, likes and shares and so on. Although it can be a fun topic, but I will be mainly focusing on the monetary side of things, about the potential audience and how to work with the audience, and about what we've been doing through the alpha beta testing stages and what kind of problems we encountered in 2013 when we originally started working with the World of Warships. I will be disclosing some of the data on our growth. I will also discuss some details that we discovered when the project was closed and to the broader audience. And also I think that there are lessons that any brand can take away from this presentation. I will also be discussing the business and the monetary side of our experience, the savings that we managed to make, and the profits that we managed to generate. So we started in 2013, before friends and family, before alpha testing, and we had a number of tasks. First of all, to define our target audience. Second task was to see where this audience was to be found, and also during the alpha testing that we were hoping that it will run for half year, and we will be able to get in touch with the audience and also generate some human reserve, to have some people we could invite, that people that could be waiting for the game, that to understand how difficult and challenging this was, you have to keep in mind that we are a free-to-play project, of course, and this means that you generate very little income on average from a given player. Therefore, when we say people, when we say audience, when we say human reserves, we are talking millions of people, 10, 20 100,000 people is not enough. If we don't generate millions of people, then it's not going to work. So when we analyzed the initial conditions that we were to operate in, it turned out that the situation was rather grim. People in CIS, they were willing perhaps to try the World of Warships, but the level knowledge was very low. People would know the Aurora cruiser, the Variag, and the legendary Sun, and the aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov. That's it, pretty much. And so we were designing a game about something that was not known to the audience. Second point was that there was no place on the Russian internet where there would be a concentration of fans of this topic. So there was no community that was already there that we could tap in. We could not come and say, hey guys, come on and do the testing. No, it turned out that there were no web resources available. This is actually the list of the most popular Navy web resources. So, for instance, wunderwaffen.narod.ru, battleships.spb.net, and tsushima.su. A couple more. They had all of them had a number of common features. Their design dated back to the early 2000s. No interactive features, no forums, no possibility to comments. Well, Tsushima was a forum. Some of them had the old-fashioned guest books, and some of them didn't get any renovation from 2008, 2009, and some of them were having hosting problems. So it was actually difficult to have a link to this web resource because they did have problems with hosting at the time. Russian Wikipedia, in terms of the Navy, was pretty much empty. There was a little information on the Soviet ships, but not much on anything else. A couple of lines of text, really, and that was that. So we realized that we were to start in an information vacuum, because when we were starting two previous projects, one for tanks and one for the aircraft, the situation was very different. There was a lot more audience that was a lot more engaged online. So we had to actually create and attract the audience, and the project wasn't there, of course. We could not disclose the game mechanics, no screenshots, no video. So it was a task where a lot was unknown. The project didn't exist yet, as I said, and we had to start from scratch. All right. So we were quite cool about it, and as I said, since the web resources were either non-existent or too old or non-informative, then we decided to create the resources. The community wasn't there. We decided to create a community that could eventually be invited to play World of Warships. So we decided to be the main information hub for this setting. Store information on the Navy, history that was available on the internet, and provide answers to questions and anchor the audience around this information. So by creation of such an information hub, we were hoping to be on top of the search results, and so that we will be able to provide traffic to this information hub. And we did succeed in that. We managed to collect all the enthusiasts for Navy history and for all sorts connected with ships around our information. I will be focusing more on the social media later on. So we created a blog first, a forum, where there would be stories on history, on some personnel and so on. And we also, of course, had these huge public resources, groups on social media that would actually spread out the word and would spread out the contact to wider audiences. Of course, we started with public groups of our brands, and eventually World of Warships group was there. The cornerstone of our ideology was virality, of course. What is virality? It's a criteria that allows you to expect that the content you generate will not need to be promoted, that will be shared and liked, and if 10% of the audience either liked or shared your out of those who have seen it, if 10% do something about it, then it means virality is 10%. If 20 people out of 100 do that, then you have a 20% virality. So virality, we believed, was the key tool for us that would allow us to increase the coverage without any promotion costs. Because, as I said, we couldn't disclose anything of the project at that period, therefore we could not actually promote it. There was also a big task of actually teaching the audience, educating the audience, because very few people travel to the sea. Many people have not seen, a battleship in their lives. So therefore, we decided to publish 6 to 8 different new posts on the topic. So what was the media back in the day, in 2013? 80% of the daily internet audience in Russia used social media by Brand Analytics. It's changed now. We actually have more than 100% in every of the bars, so supporting the heritage of Viktor Churov, but it's because some people were on several social media. As you can see, the spread was somewhat different between Moscow and the other regions of Russia, but we decided to add to the social media also Twitter and Facebook. But of course, the biggest source of users was the VK social media. We there supported information sharing. We created a lifestyle public, and also we created some humor for that. Odnoklassniki, the OK Russian social media, is more family-oriented. So at the early stage, we were not that successful with Odnoklassniki, but eventually they became the most fast-growing, actually, social media resource that we're showing, because now they have a test of the game. So how did we engage the audience? Really old-fashioned. We went very old-fashioned way. We started to by giving them a chance to celebrate events, to talk with the developers, to celebrate all sorts of events, to be interactive, to write text of their own and get them published with us. So I'm not going to discuss this with you. This is a huge topic. You've all heard it at dozens of conferences, and as I said, I'm mainly focusing on the financial side of things. So therefore, I'm not discussing this in any detail. What kind of contact did we have? Well, first of all, anything on sea and navy topics. Some people have not seen any such images, when there's a phosphorescent sea, when there are explosions at sea, some fun historic photos that people liked a lot, actually. And, if you have a nice image of a seaside, of a seashore, or anything sea-wise during winter time, you can guarantee that people will like and share this on the internet. Being viral, content that is shared by everyone, this is of course our main goal. When you get chaired by the friends of your friends. This is, of course, the biggest achievement. And we were, of course, set in a very unique situation because there were no other Navy gangs at this time to compete with us. Therefore, we didn't have, any trademarks, any logos yet. We just added up this information. This is a comparison between the Yamato Tower with the biggest tanks from the world of tanks. This got so viral. Or the Shadow contest that we have. We were on Peekaboo, on Joy Reactor, on Yaplakal, everywhere. On the Japanese Twitter, it was reposted by all sorts of people. Because it really is such a cool thing when you create a shadow of a cruiser or a line ship, if just with all sorts of random stuff on your table. We created two hashtags, the cap and all the warships' humor. Now they have lives of their own, and they're still alive, actually. We collected some memes, jokes, sometimes playing it very risky. We tried to also please the Germanophiles with such, say, destroy a fish, as on the previous image. We had some really massive contest with thousands of people participating. You had to, for instance, go to the border of your town and take a photo saying that I'm waiting for the World of Warships, and you had to post it on your page and get shares and so on. And this was really viral and massive. We had hundreds of people posted every day. Tens of thousands of people do that. It was online, digital, very contemporary, very popular. Just the way we like it. Let's get back to virality. As I said, we wanted to, hundreds of thousands of people to take part, and sometimes we actually had tens of thousands of people, and we had thousands of winners, actually, So once we actually had 45,000 winners in a week during the first beta weekend. Of course, you could not do that without automation. It really is just too massive, too complex, too lengthy. You would have to write emails to every one of those 45,000 people. Therefore, every contest, every competition that we had, every draw on the social media, we had to automate it. I don't know, back in the day also, we didn't have ready-made solutions for this. What we used to give automatically was invites to come and play on the beta version. These are very powerful tools, but they were actually very simple in design. You had to log in on the web page and then connect to your VK account. And if there was a bonus associated with your account, then you instantly got the prize, without waiting for a week, without any discussions, nothing like that. We now giving away 50 to 60,000 people of such bonuses weekly, and it takes 2, 3, 4 hours, because you need your account ID lists, and then you upload it onto the portal, and then whoever then logs on, they get their bonus. You don't even have to change the web link there. People just sometimes double check, maybe they have a bonus they don't know about from time to time. What did we manage to achieve during the alpha test period? Well, we first wanted to have, a million target audience with our activities, so we decided let's start with this nice little figure. And in December 2013, we started with 120,000 people. That's what we started with. We wanted to go as high as 1 million people. Only in VK we had by May 2015 a coverage of 1.6 million people, but we also were active on Facebook, Twitter, and other web resources. So I would call it serious success. Other exciting developments on YouTube. We got 65,000 subscribers May 2015, and the search engine traffic that we were accumulating, the organic traffic, when people were googling, say, on Brazilian Minas Gerais line ship, for instance, we had 70,000 such impressions actually, from Google or Yandex for free, and now we have bigger figures. We're actually very thankful to the search engines for that. One resource where we were not successful was the forum. It became a second in importance social resource, but we didn't get the KPI on that. We wanted 300,000, but we only managed to accumulate 200,000, but it's still quite a lot. So we had a forum, we had a wiki, and we had YouTube presence, so quite a lot, really a broad strategy. But none of this is comparable to how many people we have on VK, 1.8 million people. This is the biggest pipe of our traffic indeed. So most of these people, when the game started, they actually ended up playing. We were doing a lot of cross-promotion, and if you look at, of course, you get people who are on VK at the same time they're on the forum and so on. And our data, our figure on this cross presence is about 45%. If we bring together all of our resources, then our coverage was about 2.5 million people by May 2015. But if you count, everyone, 1.2 million people was the audience of the first 2 months when we were launching the game. 700,000 on the first month and just over 500,000 second month. And no advertising, as I said, no advertising the first 2 months when we launched, no advertising whatsoever. No posting, no banners on World of Tanks. We didn't have, any email sent to World of Tanks players, nothing like that. We had some PR and our project, but we managed to accumulate 1.2 million people to start playing the game, and it was only accumulated at this information hub, which we first were founding people for through social media. Yes, so it was done, as I said, social media first, the information hub, and then they ended up playing. In terms of business results, when we started an interesting experience to compare as for the price per user, we were paying $1.5 in this experiment, and if you can calculate how much we saved, then we saved about, I think the modest estimate would be about $1.5 million US. So if you only look at the social media, it still get 300,000 people, and that means saving 450,000 US dollars. And these were the best, of course, players with best retention. If you look at retention rates, we used to pay per retained player $8. So if you look at how much we saved through conversion, we saved $3 million US in Russia. Not worldwide, and given the crisis in Russia's economy and so on. So this is how much you can save in if you are active in social media. MMO, of course, is a world of its own. You know, time is money everywhere, yes, but here the audience is money. The people is money. The more people you attract, the more you can make. And social media work is an activity that has direct impact on your internet business. You can find huge target audiences. The technology will have to change, the approaches will have to change, but there is a huge audience that you can find, that you can attract, and eventually increase your brand presence through them. Now we have 4 to 5 minutes for questions. Thank you, Sasha. It was very informative, was very interesting. Now it's time for questions. Any questions? Raise your hand. Yeah, there's one hand over there. Good morning. How did you pick social media to work with, and how did you pick the blogs? Well, we wanted, of course, the bigger audience social media, so we started with VK on the Klasniki, and we also added Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube, and we started with them. There's also, you know, Moy Mir, what else in Russia, the Live Journal. We didn't take them because there was a lot of junk traffic, not that many people, and they were also losing their audience over the period of the previous 3 years. Good morning, thank you so much for the presentation. I'd like to learn how many people were creating the content. We had 2 SMM managers. We had an art department, guys who were preparing art content. But if you count everyone who was working on this information hub, this is going to be about 8 people, but there were also moderators, about 10 to 15 moderators for various social resources that we created. Because, you know, people like to swear, you need to look after that, therefore we had to hire quite a few moderators. But the information hub, yeah, I think we started with 3, ended up with 10 people there. And we did rely heavily on our artists. We started with 5 people, then we had 10. Not all of them worked for social media, but so it was unique content. Yes, absolutely, unique content. It wasn't just, you know, sharing and collecting memes elsewhere. You can only generate such result with unique content. Good morning. My first question is, why did you launch on the Russian market first? Why didn't you keep in mind localizing in English, right? And the second, you focused mainly on the VK, but say, why not global Facebook, not international social media? Well, I'm responsible for the Russian market. If I were responsible for the global market, then I would be doing this in English. You know, I will be focusing on Facebook, yes, and Twitter in Japan, but we have, as you know, regional centers, and the audience is distributed accordingly, and I was responsible for the Russian language audience, therefore that's what I was doing. If I were responsible for the North America or other projects, you know, for the European market elsewhere, then I will have to be in English, and it will have to be, of course, to go via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for both for questions and answers. Last question, please. Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. My question: what is your audience breakup by gender and age? Audience, you mean what kind of audience? The people you managed to attract in summer 2015, mainly those were males. Again, Russian audience. 98% of them were males, aged on average at 30. No school boys, actually. The bell curve peaked at 25 to 27 years of age, and as for the VK audience, I think they were younger there, 18 to 25. But it's interesting that we didn't have any people from school. It's mainly males working in large cities with good internet connections, and they can be blue collar, white collar, army servicemen and quite a few actually army pensioners, if we discuss again the Russian audience as of summer of 2015. Thank you, Alexander. Thanks you so much for your questions. Well done.